You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and there's a lot to get to today with the CFP title game. The Astros getting the hammer thrown down on them with their sign stealing and a couple signings to go through. But I gotta start with the CFP game, and I'll start with the team that was technically the visitors. Well, I shouldn't say technically, they really were the visitors. Baton Rouge is a lot closer to New Orleans than Clemson is, and that is Trevor Lawrence's team. Look, I'll start with Lawrence. He did not have a good game. We know that Trevor Lawrence is a big game quarterback. He's done it before. He did it last year. He beat a great Alabama team. But in this game, he was terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible. For his standards, he played like garbage. And if Clemson was going to win this game, Trevor Lawrence had to be the best player on the field. And you can't tell me that he's not capable of being that. Forget how Burrow did. I'll get to Burrow. But you cannot tell me that Trevor Lawrence isn't capable of putting up a great game. Could he have thrown 5 touchdowns? Be responsible for 6? Probably not. He's never done that before. But you can't tell me that he's not capable of putting up a great game. And Lawrence and this Clemson offense could get nothing going in the passing game. Now give LSU secondary. I want to keep saying the Tigers for Clemson or LSU. I have to stop myself. The Tigers won and the Tigers lost. Unreal. Look, I got to give LSU secondary credit. Derek Stingley, Christian Fulton, and Grant Delpit had great games. Christian Fulton really helped his draft stock here. He's viewed as a late first-round draft pick. He should now be viewed as a mid-first-round draft pick, at the very least. But where Clemson really failed here was that they couldn't extend drives. Now, LSU wasn't great in this category either. 4 for 14 for LSU. That's not good. But Clemson was only 1 for 11 on third down. You can't beat LSU that way. Clemson had plenty of opportunities to make life really difficult for LSU, but they couldn't do it. And at the end of the day, that's on Trevor Lawrence. While he had a great day with his legs, there's no question about that, the passing game was terrible. T. Higgins was a non-factor in the passing game. So was Justin Ross. Their best pass catcher was their tight end, Braden Galloway, who was coming back from a year-long suspension. Now, good for Galloway. Really, he deserves credit for coming back and looking as good as he did. This isn't about Galloway. This is about Clemson's failure to beat a beatable LSU team. And this has nothing to do with LSU's offense. I promise I'll get into Burrow. I guarantee you that Dabo Swinney's head hit the pillow last night, thinking to himself how he lost the game that he could have won. That offense cannot put up just 25 points. 25 may seem like a lot. It's not for Clemson. This is a team that in the ACC title game put up 62 on a really good Virginia team. That was regularly scoring in the 40s and 50s in the regular season. Yeah, they only put up 29 on OSU. That's fine. I get that. But Clemson's defense stepped up in that game. They didn't do that here. Yeah, Isaiah Simmons had another great game. Going to be a very special player. He's incredibly fast. He's one of the fastest linebackers I've ever seen. And that goes for college linebackers and NFL linebackers. Look, I understand that there's only so much you can do against a Joe Burrow-led team. But you've got to do better than that. I mean, all due respect to Travis Etienne, and I think Etienne has a very bright future in the NFL. I really, really do. I think he's draft eligible. And I wouldn't mind him on the Jets, assuming that Le'Veon Bell gets traded. But he cannot be the best player for Clemson in a game that they expect to win. It has to be Trevor Lawrence. Or at the bare minimum, Isaiah Simmons. They're not built around their running backs. They're built around Trevor Lawrence and what he can do with his legs and his arm. And let me tell you, Etienne was all over the place. He was in on the passing game, too. He may have been their third best player in that game. Simmons, Galloway, Etienne. I don't think that's unreasonable to say. That's not the formula that Clemson needed to win this game. It had to be Trevor Lawrence. Now, I'm not a Clemson fan by any stretch. I don't hate Clemson. I don't particularly like them. I watched this game as just a college football fan. But I expected to see two great teams in this game. And really, I only saw one. And that was LSU. And speaking of the victors, what they did great in this game was that they got off to a slow start, but they didn't let it get to them. They lost the field position battle early. But Burrow was able to put together some great drives. And hopefully, Ed Orgeron has shut all the critics up. I remember Paul Feinbaum saying that was the worst hire of that particular cycle. And Booger McFarland said it was Matt Rule. Unreal. Where do we find these people? Look, early on in that game, LSU did not look good at all. I mean, they really looked like, I hate to say it, they really looked like they were going to get embarrassed. It took them a while to really get going. Their wide receivers really weren't getting anything going. Their running game was inept. And again, this is early on in the first quarter. But then Burrow threw that strike to Jamar Chase. And immediately you could see some life in LSU. Now, granted, Clemson put up 10 unanswered points after that. But Burrow didn't let it faze him. 2 big passes to Jamar Chase later. They're at the 3. And then Burrow was able to punch it in himself. That was really the turning point of this game. If LSU had gone 3 and out on that drive, Clemson would have had great field position again. They probably would have scored. And that would have been a tough hole for LSU to climb out of. But Burrow and his wide receivers made plays. And this was really as close to a complete effort as you're going to get from a college football team. LSU played a fantastic game. Burrow ending his college career being responsible for 6 touchdowns and over 500 yards. This is probably the greatest season for a college football quarterback ever. Is this the greatest college team ever? You can make that argument. I'd really need to think about it, because we've had some great ones. Matt Leinart, USC. some of the Alabama teams under Saban. Hell, if you want to go all the way back, Blanchard and Davis for Army. Archie Griffin, OSU. There's some competition there for LSU, but if you wanted to say that LSU was the best, I can't argue with you. This was as close to a complete team as we're ever going to see. And it started with a kid that wasn't on anyone's radar. No one expected this from Joe Burrow. Granted, this is an unpredictable season for anyone. For Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, whoever. But Joe Burrow was viewed as an undraftable prospect heading into this year. Now, he's going to be the first overall pick. He's now going to be the face of an NFL franchise. The Cincinnati Bengals. And let me tell you, they're in really good hands. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a great season. Terrace Marshall Jr. was the guy who was on everyone's radar. He got hurt for a good chunk of the year. And Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson stepped up. Jamar Chase won the Biletnikoff Award. Their defense was fantastic. Derek Stingley, a true freshman coming in. He was one of the best corners in all of college football. Patrick Queen, Christian Fulton, Grant Delpit. Phenomenal years. Ed Orgeron, the perfect coach for him. LSU is in Baton Rouge, but they have fans in New Orleans. I've been to New Orleans a bunch of times, and let me tell you, they are extremely passionate about their team. Well, them and the Saints. To everyone in New Orleans right now, I congratulate you. You had an amazing team, a sensational team. It's not a stretch to say a perfect team. This was a phenomenal effort by everyone involved. And that doesn't just go for this game. That goes for the whole year. And it's been a very, very fun ride to watch. Now, are you going to be able to repeat it? Absolutely not. I mean, seriously, I don't know who you're going to get after Burrow, but I can guarantee you, if you get a grad transfer or someone who you recruited to replace him, he's not going to be as good. Now, your defense will still be pretty good. Granted, you'll be without Fulton, but you'll have Stingley. I think you'll still have Edwards-Helaire. I think you'll have some pieces from this team, but I don't see you guys repeating. Clemson could come back. Clemson could come back very easily. Lawrence will be motivated. He'll want to cement his first overall draft status in 2021. And it's possible that OSU faces him in the finals. If that's the case, then we're in for another great game. The game this year was great. The game next year will be even better. There's a lot to like here, college football fans. Cherish what you had this year, but look forward to what you're going to have next year. Because I think it's going to be an incredible season. Moving on now to the Astros sign stealing and the fallout from that. Before I get into anything, I just want to say that this may be considered, it's not old news. It's still relevant, but this certainly isn't breaking news. It's more than, well, no, it's not more than 24 hours old, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Regardless, it broke when I was still editing yesterday's Jacob Valk show. And what happened was I saw that the episode was going to be really long. So I had to think, do I want to add this to yesterday's show and make it that much longer? Or do I want to wait for tomorrow when I know that there isn't going to be as much to talk about. I decided to go with the latter. While I know that you've certainly gotten your fill of opinions on it, you haven't gotten mine yet. And that's the one thing that I like about this setup that I have here. I can take my time when something like this breaks. I can digest it. I can read what people's reactions are to it. I can react to them. We can get a conversation going. And, I can see where the chips are falling on it. And it's been a very wide spectrum of reactions. First, I'll address the punishments themselves. I'm not going to recap them. I'm just going to react to them. I spent enough time deliberating on it. Here's what I have to say about it. Sign stealing has been around for an incredibly long time. When the Giants were making their miraculous comeback in 1951, they had a bullpen catcher by the name of Sal Evars. And Evars would communicate to the Giants hitters what the next pitch was going to be. Now, that's not to take away from what Bobby Thompson did. It's not to take away from what any of those 51 Giants did. It's just to say that sign stealing has been happening for years. It's really all about how you do it. If you've got a runner on second and he can decipher what pitch is coming next and he communicates it to the batter, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's just a good job by the runner. If you want to try to peer into the catcher as he's given the signal, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Where you cross a line is when you start implementing a grand system. And that is what the Astros did. They got the signs from a center field camera. That camera was streaming to a screen that was just steps from the team's dugout at Minute Maid. And then people with the team would bang a garbage can to let the hitter know what pitch was coming. That's wrong. I mean, for God's sake. If you really think that that's acceptable behavior, I feel like a parent here. Shame on you. Where are your morals? Seriously. You're gonna bang on a garbage can. Man alive. The lengths that people will go to. Now, let me just say that I read the whole report. And, good Lord, does Rob Manfred go in on the Astros. He said that the Astros failed to establish a culture in which adherence to the rules is ingrained in the fabric of the organization and to stop bad behavior as soon as it occurred. All of that is basically a long-winded way of saying that the Astros were running a very, very loose ship. You've heard of a tight ship? This was a loose ship. And with that in mind, I agree 100% with the punishments. I think they're very fair. I really have no complaints with them at all. Now, I'm not going to focus on them being fired yet. I'm just talking about what Manfred laid out. There are some people that have said that the suspension should have been longer. They should have been on the permanently ineligible list. No. And I'm going to tell you why. This situation was preventable. Not by the Astros not doing it, but by Major League Baseball not regulating how technology can be used. The Astros were getting this information from a camera that was mounted in center field and the replay room. All of that is legal under Major League Baseball. It's okay to have cameras there, and it's okay to have a replay room. The issue with Major League Baseball, and I really, really hope that Manfred realizes this, is that it was being run like an honor system. That you're trusting the people not to cheat. How many people in this world have that sense of morality that they're not going to cheat to try to get ahead, especially in the playoffs? I can guarantee you it's not a lot. I can guarantee you that a lot of people would have taken advantage of this. In fact, there are probably a bunch of teams that do something similar to this. It's like bounties with the NFL and the Saints. Every team does it to some extent. It's just how you do it. And the issue with Major League Baseball is that they okayed these cameras to be put up. They just said you can't use it for this purpose. Well, how does that work? That's like saying, I'm going to give you the answer key for a test, but you can only use it on the first question. Well, wait a second. If I have the answer key, I'm going to use it for all the questions. This technology needs to be strictly regulated. It needs to be strictly monitored. Have Major League Baseball assigned security guards monitoring it and seeing how it's used. If you want to have someone from Major League Baseball up in the replay room, do it. If you want to have Major League Baseball employees checking every camera that a team uses and how that footage is used, I have no problem with that. No, here's a better idea. Limit how many cameras you can use. And I don't want to see people filming from the stands for the organization. No. If you do that, that's a major violation. That Major League Baseball can't stop. The issue is that Major League Baseball let this technology go unregulated. They could see that this technology would be used for this. And there are rules saying that you can't do it. But what are you doing to enforce them besides the honor system? The honor system doesn't work with sports. Maybe it works in school, not in sports. You want me to go through the list of scandals that there have been in sports with teams cheating? Hell, I don't need to look that much further than the Astros. Chris Correa. John Capalella, the Braves GM. Baseball knew that this was an issue. They just didn't do anything about it. They put the rules in place. They didn't do anything to enforce them. The honor system fails. And to think that that was really going to work is lunacy. This is why we have proctors for the SATs. If we didn't, every student in America would be pulling out their phones looking for the answers. This was a preventable situation, and Major League Baseball did nothing to prevent it. And I think that's why the suspensions were only for a year. And I really think, at least I hope, that Manfred will strictly regulate how cameras can be used. Have security guards there. Have proctors, if you will. Major League Baseball was just letting the inmates run the asylum here. There weren't any prison guards to stop it. And to the people saying that Hinch and Luhnow are now unhireable, oh, that's BS. I guarantee you when this suspension is over, they're going to be back. They're going to be getting interviews. They're not on the ineligible list. They're going to serve their time, spend a year off with their families, and they're going to come back. Now, it may not be as manager and GM, but they'll be employed by a major league team. There's no question. If we can give guys like Roberto Ozuna, Aroldis Chapman, and Jeurys Familia second chances, and all the people that have been suspended for steroid second chances, why can't we give Hinch and Lunau a second chance? I guarantee you they're back next year. Now, if you want to tell me zero tolerance for everyone, I respect that. That's fine. But that's not the system that Major League Baseball has. And I do applaud Jim Crane, the Astros owner, for firing Hinch and Lunau. I think that was the right decision to try to wipe this stain off from the team as best as you can. It's going to be very interesting to see how this unfolds for them. Joe Espada is going to be the interim manager. He's a very well-respected coach. It's very possible he gets the full-time job. It's going to be very interesting to see who wants that Astros GM job. You've got a pretty easy team there, not a lot of holes. But this is a pretty big stain on the team. And you're not going to have a lot of resources to help you with the draft. It's going to be very interesting to see who they get. Maybe the Astros will go in a completely different direction. They went analytics with Luna. Maybe they'll go old school with Dombrowski. That would be very interesting. And to the people saying that we should strip the Astros of the World Series, no. Alright? No. It doesn't work like that. This isn't college here. This is Major League Baseball. We're not going to take away World Series. We're not going to take away victories. The simple fact is, you don't know how much the sign stealing really helped the hitters. It's the ultimate irony. In the report, there's no specific instance that a player said, yeah, knowing the sign really helped me here. And I don't want to hear that a player wouldn't say that. Because this all started with a player in Mike Fiers being the whistleblower. And good for Mike Fiers, by the way. Seriously, standing up for his morals, standing up for what he believes in, I respect him. The simple fact is that guys like Bregman, Correa, and Altuve are some of the best players in all of baseball. They didn't need to know the signs to be successful. Did it help? Yeah, probably. But by how much? We'll never know. We're not going to adjust their statistics. We're not going to strip any wins away. All the players were cleared, including Carlos Beltran. Really funny. His punishment is he has to manage the Mets. I saw that on Twitter. That was really funny. Don't take away what the Astros accomplished. Alright, they won the World Series. They did that with a combination of good hitting and good pitching. You can't definitively say that they wouldn't have won that World Series or beaten the Yankees without knowing the signs. The punishment for Alex Cora will be very, very interesting because he is specifically named as a sort of ringleader for this. He'll definitely get the same suspension. It could even be worse, which really screws over the Red Sox. You know, I'm all for screwing over the Red Sox. I'm a Yankee fan. So anything negative for the Red Sox is a positive for me. But it's really unfair that an innocent team is going to suffer here. This guy's a World Series winning manager. And you're going to be without him next year. And hell, possibly the year after. He may even get a permanent ban. What I'd like to see from Manfred is, say to Alex Cora, this is going to be your last year managing. You're going to be on a 2-year ban after this coming year. That gives the Red Sox time to find a replacement for him, and it doesn't negatively affect them for this year. Think of it as a retirement tour, so to speak. If a manager says, this is my last year, I'm retiring after this year, he gets celebrated. It's no different than that. He just won't be celebrated, he'll be jeered. And if Cora wants to resign instead of doing that, that's fine. He'll still get a 2-year ban. He just won't be able to start the year. But I really think that that's the fairest way to punish Alex Cora. Because anything else punishes the Red Sox. And they're innocent bystanders here. Sticking with baseball, though, I do want to talk about the Tigers signing Ivan Nova. It makes sense. He's good for 160 innings or so. He's not a terrible pitcher. He's not a great pitcher. I was never a big fan of his with the Yankees, even though he got a lot of wins. For some reason, the Yankees always seemed to hit for him. It was weird. He had a very weird Yankees career. But for a team that really needs pitching help like the Tigers, and a strong veteran presence to help their young guns, I can't get upset at it. He's not going to be Hal Newhouser for you, but he's not going to be Mike Maroff either. The other signing that I want to talk about is Nicholas Backstrom being locked up by the Capitals for 5 more years at $46 million. That's $9.2 million a year, and let me tell you, he's worth it. Now, we can debate how much of his career Ovechkin is responsible for, but Backstrom is still a premier talent. Alright, if he's not playing with Ovechkin, does he put up 70, 80 points a year? No. But he'd still put up 60. He is a phenomenal player, has proven that he can be the second best skater on a Stanley Cup winning team. He's well on his way to another fantastic season, has 35 points in 39 games. This is going to be a very scary Capitals team. This is a Capitals team that's going to be very tough to beat in the playoffs. Now, granted, we were saying that about the Lightning last year, and they got swept. But this Capitals team is so much better. I'll take Ovechkin over Stamkos. I'll take Holtby over Vasilevsky. I'll take Backstrom over whoever their second best player is, Braden Point. The Capitals have to enter the playoffs as the odds-on favorite. I mean, really, it shouldn't be even close. I don't know who would be second, but they shouldn't be in the same universe as the Capitals. They are unreal this year, and Backstrom's been a big part of it. I think it's a great move to lock him up. Tomorrow, I'm going to be breaking down the latest and greatest in sports. It's not going to be as exciting as what I broke down today, but it'll still be fun. May have some This Day in Sports History or Mount Rushmore. I don't know what the future holds. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that if you threw a tent over Camden Yards, you'd have a 3-ring circus on your hands.